Good morning, gentlemen.
I'm gonna go prepare the soup and see what.
So, I'm actually on my way to work right now, but we're pretty late, so.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you either way.
Yeah,
Right next to me.
Expires like.
Your wife can't still be cooking.
Let me tell you something. The house is totally kosher. Okay? Not full chicken soup.
What are you saying? The cat's over at the door's house.
It's totally kosher.
First time.
It's coming tomorrow.
One of these days I'll turn to. It's not hard. Maybe.
Your computer or your phone has to support a read back.
Huh?
Power under your door. Sunday.
The computer will probably know it, but the cell phone will be able to know. Well, once you set it up.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I said.
It'll work on both of them.
He's upstairs. He's
What's that called, background pictures? Is
Yes,
that-
we're.
Preferences.
Somewhere in your office.
Already? Yeah, you should.
Hey, we still have those ducks.
My son's 85 pounds.
Yeah.
He's gonna be 85 pounds.
That's awesome. I love it.
I want to go out.
My wife's a small dog.
Okay. Well, for all you firstborns. I can't relate. I was the last born. Okay. Let's go ahead and begin this morning with Birkot HaShachar, page 6. Let us please rise. You got it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan us hakvi bina lehavkim bein yom u'bein layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben Korin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam avisharumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rocha haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasali kortzor ki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechem tzedek aver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozir Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam otei Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten la'ef koach. May be seated. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam. Utenenu hayom uv'kol yom lechein ul hesed rachamim beinecha uvenei kol roeinu v'tignol hasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. Yehi ratzon lefanecha Adonai v'Elokei avotai. Ribon kol ha'amim l'tzorich v'nimachim. Avachim v'yitecha b'nei Avraham. Ashreinu matav chalkeinu umanayim goraleinu afayiru shetenu. Ashreinu sha'anaknu mashkimim umarivim erev avoker ve'amrim b'mayim b'chol yom. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Page 8. Kadesh et Shimcha Mekdesh Shemecha v'Kadesh et Shimcha Lomecha uvishuatecha tarim tabia karenenu baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh et Shimcha barabim Atahu Adonai Eloheinu b'shamayim u'ba'aretz b'shamayim. Yehi ratzon lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu shetiten chalkeinu b'toratecha v'niyim itam elav shalom Aaron Kohen ohev shalom v'rodev shalom ohev riyotum korban laTorah. Kaddish to Rabbanan for mourners and those observing a yortzeit, page 13. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah ve'alma divra kirutei ve'amlik malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala ubizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidei Chon ve'al kol Talmidei Chon ve'al kol man da'askim be'oraita di ve'atra hadain v'di b'kol atar v'atar yehei l'chol n'chol n'shlam al rabba hina v'chizda v'rachamin v'chayin arichin unzonar avika unforkana mikodam avuhon devishmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Osei shalom imromav u'barachamav yasei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Mizmor asher hanukah le'levi idar me'uchagi l'tzadi v'l'chadash Zamri l'mei chasidav v'kodsho kira g'abafocha v'm'sono Hafakta mitzvim l'koli batata sagi v'esreni simcha lemanu z'bavali dom Adonai Elohai le'olam odecha. Mourner's Kaddish, page 15. Yit kadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah ve'alma divra kirutei ve'amlik malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitvarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Osei shalom imromav Yasei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Let us please rise, page 16. Baruch she'amar ve'haya ha'olam baruch hu baruch zebrushi baruch ve'aseh baruch shemo baruch atanu melech ha'olam ha'el ha'racham ve'yamo b'shmo Yachid he ha'olamim alamushbakim v'rei et shemo hagadol baruch atah Adonai melech mehulal v'tishbachot. May be seated. Hodu la'Adonai. Shira Ki koel hehamim elim va'Adonai shemayim hasa hod v'rachanav. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishakavu l'hakodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu v'hu rachum yakaper v'lo yashkit v'her balish. Adonai tzivaot asher amoteach bach Adonai Hoshia hamelech yanenu ve'yom korenu Hoshia et amecha u'v'ramatecha. Va'ani b'chatzaka b'takti yagel v'yishuatecha Ashira la'Adonai ki gamal alai Mizmor letoda. Page 20. Hari Yodon kol haaretz yivdu. Ki tovan le'olam chazdo ve'ador v'ador emunato Yikivaron le'olam yismakim u'masa v'hishem alam v'rachman etzav v'olam zevshem. V'hu rachum yakaper v'lo yashkit v'hir bala hashiva po v'ler kolmato Adonai Hoshia melech yanenu ve'yom korenu Ashrei Yosh bebeitecha od yarelu chasela Ashrei shekachalo Ashrei shekachalo Elohav tehila levidrim chayla Zecher raftu chayla. Sadi for Tehilat Adonai Berhi V'Rekabos Hashem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed V'Anachnu Nevarek Yamei Ata Ve'ad Olam Hallelujah Hallelujah Nafshi Et Adonai. Adonai Matir Asurim, Adonai Bokeh Kivrim, Adonai Zokeh Kifufim, Adonai Ohev Tzadikim, Adonai Shomer Et Kerim Yatom, V'Amanai Dedet V'Dergam She'avet Yimloch Adonai Le'olam, Elchai Tzion Ledor V'Ador, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Ki Tov Zerul Eloheinu, Ki Nam Yavti, La B'nei Yerushalayim, Amen. Shabbat Ki Yerushalayim, Amen. Mahagid Rav Yaakov ukav mishpatav leYisrael lo asachin chogoy umishpatim bareum hallelujah 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 Adonai min hashamayim hallelujah. Page 24. Hallelujah Shem Adonai kinis gav shema levado hodo eretz v'shamayim v'yarim keren le'amo Tehila lechol hasidav livnei Yisrael am karovo. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Shiru na shir chadash sichon v'nasidim yismak v'nasam. Lesor melchechem bezikim v'nifedechem b'chavlei barzel la'asot ba'om mishkar katuv hadargu lechol hasidav. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. L'kodsha ha'b'kiru zon. Hallelujah, b'tzilei shama, hallelujah, b'tzilei truha. Kol anshe mateh hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol anshe mateh hallelujah, hallelujah. Let us rise. Baruch Adonai le'olam amen ve'amen. Baruch Adonai shekani Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, osei nifla'o levado. U'baruch shem kavod le'olam v'yimalei kavodo et kol ha'aretz. Amen ve'amen. Vayavarech David. Lecha Adonai hagidula v'hagivura v'tzivra. Atahu Adonai Elohim asher b'chartam ba'Avram v'erteto mirakazdim v'tadeh shemo Avraham v'atzata levavone man lefanecha v'charot merpiti te'eretz. והיה מקטע לפניהם, ויברו בתוך מבושה, ורוד והם משתבים סולות, כמו אבן ומים עזים. ויושע אדוני ביום ההוא את ישראל ממצרים, וירא ישראל ממצרים אל שפת הים. וירא ישראל את הגדולה אשר עשה אדוני ממצרים, וירום את אדוני, ויאמינו באדוני ובמשה עבדו. אז יושב משה ובני ישראל את השירה הזאת לאדוני ואמרים ימין כאן בכל הכיוון. כי לאדוני המלוכה משב הגויים, והלמושים פרצו איש פורי עשיו, והייתה לאדוני המלוכה, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. page 29. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו האל המלך הגדול. ברכות והודו מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני המלך גדול בתשבחות אל ההודעות אדוני נפלאות הבוכה בשירי זמרה מלך אל חי העולמים יתגדל ויגדל שמי רבה יעמד ברק ידותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי יכונו וימי וחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה ומברך אלוהי עולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ונאם וינשא ויתהדר ויצלה ויצלה שמי קדושה בריחו אלא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד. May be seated. Page 30. ברוך אדוני מבורך שעושה שלום עלינו המאיר לארץ מקדש וגם תמיד נעשה בראשית ונרבו עשיך תתברך צורנו מלכנו ושתבח שמך לעד מלכנו כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים בהם על רצון קונם וכולם פותחים בפירוש התורה בשירה וזמרה ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא וכולם מקבלים מלך המלך בשמיים זה מזה ונונים רשות זה לזה להקדיש בנחת רוח בשפה ברורה והקדושה כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו ואופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מנסים לעומת שרפים לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך אדוני ממקומו לאל ברוך וייתנו למלך הזמן. אור חדש ציון טהר ונזכחו על מהרה לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות אהרב אבתנו אדוני אלוהינו כמלך גדולה והרנני בתורתך ובסמכותך והנני שמך והביאנו לשלום ארבע כנפות הארץ ותוליכנו ואומר לעצנו כי יפוע לשוד אתה ובאנו ובקרת מקום ולשון וקרבתנו לשמך חדש באמת להודות לך ילכנך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוקר בעמו ישראל באהבה שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ואהבת את Vayim Shemor Hashem. Something with the right. Who talked Taman? Vayim Lemman Tiskeruit. Adonai Elohechem emet. Ledor vador hu kayam shmo kayam v'kisona chon u'melachutov u'menanato la'ad kayam et rivchayim. Emet v'tahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu malkeinu melech avotenu. Go aleinu go el avotenu yotzrenu to Yeshuatenu ponenu asilenu me'olam shemecha. Ein Elohim zulatecha. Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam. Bador. Amen. Tehilot le'Elyon Baruch Hu v'orak Moshe v'nei Yisrael ekanushi Rabbi Simcha Rabba ve'amru kulam Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai Micha mocha nedar ba'kodesh Nora tehilot osef ele Shira chadasha shibeku ge'ulim Nishem kosafan hayam Yachad kulam hodu v'himliku ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Let us rise. Suri Israel kuma be'Israel Israel have taken Mecca Yehuda ve'Israel. Go aleinu anay tzivot shmo kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 36b. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el ha'gadol ha'gibor v'hanora elyon Gomel chasadim tovim v'konei ha'kol v'zocher chastei havot U'mevi goel lifnei v'nechem lema'an shemo be'ahava Melech ozer ufoken Moshe u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Abraham ufoken Sarah Tagimor le'el Adonai mechayim etim et harav lehoshia Mashiv ha'ruach u'marid ha'gashem Mechakel chayim b'chesed Mechayim etim barachamim rabim Somek noflim v'rofeh chol him amatir asurim U'mekayem emunato shenei afar Micha mocha ba'agiburo tumido melech Melech meimit u'mechayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atalech hayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh ha'meitim Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam kishem shemakdishim oto b'shmei maroma Kagatu v'yad nevi'echa v'kar ze'el ze ve'amar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivaot Melo kol ha'aretz kivodo le'umatam Baruch yomeru Baruch ke'v'adonai mimkomo uri reiko chekakatuv le'mor Himlach roe le'olam Elokai Tzion ledor v'ador hallelujah Ledor v'ador nagigud lechel netzach netzakim kedushat kanakdish V'shivkacha Eloheinu mipilunu shleilam va'ed ki hamelech gadol v'kadosh ata Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. יתגדל ויגרש מרבה, ואלמד ורקניותי ואמלך מלכותי בחיי חוני ומכוני וחי דקו בישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. הישמר רב מבורך ללא מעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר עמם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקדושה בריחו. אלא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן מהעלמה ואמרו amen. Let's rise, page 65. Vayehi binso Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'hanusu misanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetze Torah, ki mitzion tetze Torah, udevar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. Gadol Adonai iti, V'romelah Shemo Yavdav, Lecha Adonai Hagevura,
התפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה וימין נעשה לכל ראש. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתבחו לנו רגליו קדושו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתבחו להר קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. הברך המרחם עושים בזכור ותצאנים ויצא נפשותינו מן השעות הרעות, ויגר ויצר מן הסוים ויכוון אותנו לפליטת עולמים, וימלא משאלותינו במידה טובה, ישועה ורחמים. פרשת צו,
288.
page 288. בתרי לב תרי מלכותו למזמן קרוב ויחום פליטתנו ותמו בית ישראל, לכן ולחסר ולכם מרצון ורומר אמן. הכל אבו גודל אלוהינו כבוד לתורה. ימות משה מנשה בן גרשון הכהן ברבקה ראשון, ברוך שנתן תורה מוזל בקדושתו, ואתם הדביקים באדוני אלוהיכם, האם כולכם היום. ברוך המבורך לעולם ועד.
אשר ברכה בנו מכל עמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, צו את אהרון ואת בניו לאמור, זאת תורת העולה. היא העולה על מוקדה, על המזבח כל הלילה עד הבוקר, ואש המזבח תוקד בו, ולבש הכהן מדובד ומכנסי בד ילבש על בשרו, והרים את הדשן אשר תאכל האש את העולה על המזבח, ושמו אצל המזבח.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורה אמת, חיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. יעמוד אברהם בן מאיר הלוי שני.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
ברוך המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל עמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ופשט את בגדיו ולבש בגדים אחרים, והוציא את הדשן אל מחוץ למחנה אל מקום טהור, ואש על המזבח תוקד בו לא תכבה, וביער עליה הכהן עצים בבוקר וערך עליה העולה, והקריא עליה חלבי השלמים, אש תמיד תוקד על המזבח לא תכבה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. שכוח, חבל. What is your favorite name? יעמוד צבי חיים בן טוביה, שלישי. ברוך כל המורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך המורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר ברך בנו מכל העמים ונעשה לנו בצורה ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. בזאת תורת המנחה, הקרב אותה בני אהרון לפני אדוני אל פני המזבח, ורים ממנו בקומצו מסולת המנחה ומשמנה, ואת כל הלבנה אשר המנחה בקטיר המזבח ריח ניחוח הזכרת לאדוני, והנותרת ממנה יאכלו אהרון ובניו מצות. תאכל במקום קדוש בחצרו אל מועד יאכלוה, לא תהפך חמץ, חלקם נתתי אותה מישי קודש קודשים, היא כחטא וכאשם, כל זכר בבני אהרון יאכלנה, חוק עולם לראותיכם מישי אדוני, כל אשר ייגע בהם יקדש.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורה ומס בחיי עולם ובחיינו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Anybody wishing to recite a Mishaberach, this is the time. We're going to start with our friends on Zoom, and we'll continue with people here in the chapel who are also our friends. משבח אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים.
Martin Grayboy, Rosalind Roseman, Lydia and Danny Strasia, and Stan Mallon.
Leonard family, Catherine Stefani, Paul Logan.
Eto Baketo, Yosef Wade, Yosef Ariel, Pina Pina, Chaim Chaim, Arnold, Judy and Andrea Brody, and Ron Miller.
Malcolm Pega, Sarah Connor, Jacob, Nikki Free.
Eva Tessa, Esteban Callan.
יוסף משה בן סלט, ארי בן פייגל, חיה בת גורה, חיים חנוך בן דבורה, שרה בת שרה אימנו, ירונה סמדר בת ישראל, אליעזר בן דלה, רחל בת יהודית, ברכה בת צירל, אנה דייביס, ואת כל החולים בקהילה הקדושה הזאת, הקדוש ברוך הוא מלא רחמים עליהם, להחזיקם ולרפאותם וישלח להם רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף של חולי ישראל, השלב על זמן קריב ונאמר אמן. Let us please rise for חצי קדיש. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויאלמה דיברה כתובה ועל נגמר כותב, וחייכון וביום יכון וחי בכל בית ישראל, ועל זמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יש שמי רבה מונח לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ותרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי וקודשיו בריחו, ואילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם ועולמה, ואמרו אמן. יעמדו המחביאה והגולל. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל להביא אדוני ביד משה. משבח אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה רחל ולאה, ויברך את כל הכלים אשר אותו היום וכל המתפללים אותם את כל משפטותיהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישלח ברכה וצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם עם כל ישראל אחיהם, ונאמר אמן. Let us please remain standing. We have an aspera. Joe, just because we're doing this, can you tell us a little bit about why today the yahrzeit for the community? So, oh, you have two. Okay. So we're going to do this one first. Joe is observing a yahrzeit for the entire community of Yanina in Greece. So I really, while we have this, an educational opportunity, why today?
Sure, thank you. So my family lived in Yanina from the year 76 till there's still some people there. There were 50 families that went there, and indeed other congregants, former congregants here, Dick Eskenazi, who was a cousin of mine. in 1943, when the Germans took over that part of the country, they rounded up all the Jews from Yanina right before Pesach. And that included about 100 people in my mother's immediate family. My mother was one of 13, so only 3 made it through. And so you could imagine all the cousins and all the other people. So this is my chance to remember them.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במלות קדושים וטהורים כזור הרקיע מזהירים לנשמות כל היהודים בקהילת ינינה שנהרגו בידי הנאצים, שהלכו לעולמם, בגן עדן תהיה מנוחתם, אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותראה בזרחיים את נשמותיהם, אדוני ונחלתם, וינוח בשלום שכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן.
My father's brother, to give you the name, Moshe Aaron ben Avraham HaKohen.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזור הרקיע מזהירים לנשמת משה אהרון בן אברהם הכהן שלח לעולמו, בגן עדן תהיה מנוחתו, אנא בעל הרחמים הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני ונחלתו, וינוח בשלום משכבו, ונאמר אמן. יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו, הודו על ארץ ושמיים, ויערם גר לעמו,
תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו, הללויה, הללויה. ובנו כל כולו. Can you hand me that stand right? Thanks, Joe. יצחיים חילים החזיקים בה ותומכך מאושר דרכך דרכנו עם וכל נפותיך שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש עמנו כקדם. May be seated, page 78. אשרי יושב בביתך עוד יללוך סלע אשר שמחלו אשר הנחל אדוני אלוהיו תהילה לדוד הרמים חילו המלך אשר מלכך גדול ומלכך. תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו ויברך בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד ואנחנו נברך מעתה ועד עולם הללויה. למנצח מצוות דוד. היי מה קרו ונפלו ואנו קנו ונתעודד אדוני הושיע המלך עינינו ויום קוראנו ובלת ציון גואל بدأ كلاش وشتي لكن إسرائيل وكانت زازا ما كلاش كلاش أنا يا رامي فاك سرقتين وش من زوجة زيكا كتسرق Hier is met neer. ויפתחו בחדר שמך כאילו עזבת לשך אדוני אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר יקרא וקרא שמי רבה ואמר דברה קריצי וימלך מלכותי בחייך ובימי חוני בחדר כל בישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mubarak Le'olam Ve'al Maya. Yitbarak V'Yishtabach V'Yitpa'ar V'Naseh V'Yitadar V'Yitalei V'Yitzalal Shemei Kedusha B'Richu. Eilam En Kobra Katzav V'Shirata Tishba Katzav V'Nechemata Daviram Ve'yam HaVe'imru. Amen. Tishkabat Slot Tehona V'Utahona Kol Yisayah Kodabam V'Yishemaya V'Imru. Amen. Yehi Shalom V'Yishemaya V'Chaim Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Imru. Amen. Osei Shalom Ramav Yasei Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Imru. Amen. Please rise, page 83. Aleinu V'Shabbat L'Olam V'Lekeinu. Okay, Nick wil gaan nog heen nemen, of is dat gaan? Ik hier tegen het Kima goed, shall ga hier met ונאמר והירא מלך כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Mourner's Kaddish, page 84. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד דברה קירותי ועמליק מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו. לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום רומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. היום יום חמישי בשבת. נצא כבר, זה נעשה. מסנן אדוני לך שילה ויהי איתם לעולם ויהילכו מכלב כיתה ומצור דבשת ביך. Mourner's Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד דברה קירותי ועמליק מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו. לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום מרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone. So we're gonna have a little siyum this morning. So those of us who are firstborns can get out of the fast. By the way, I was just looking over the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. There's an incredible explanation about who actually is a firstborn for the purposes of the fast of the firstborn. It is a very different law than who is a firstborn usually just for matters of being a firstborn, like for Pidyon Aben. If you are the firstborn of your father or the firstborn of your mother, you are actually a firstborn that should fast on the fast of the firstborn. It's a pretty unusual thing because that's not the way Jewish law usually works. Even if your mother had a miscarriage before you were born and then you were born, you are a firstborn considered to be able to fast and should fast on this fast. Why? So it's actually remarkable. The explanation on the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says that the reason is that in Egypt, when the plague came, it struck the firstborn of fathers and mothers alike, not only of the fathers. Meaning, God wanted to be thorough. So if there were people who were married again and they were experiencing joy in their life again, they shouldn't experience joy on account that we were slaves. It's really a very dark and remarkable explanation, but it's also a remarkable explanation when it concerns how we deal with enemies that afflict us. right? From there you take the whole entire justification of how we deal with Amalek. No mercy, because they really, really inflicted pain on us. So it's a pretty severe part of Jewish law. It begins at something innocent, but if you really understand the underlying reason of why, it's not so innocent. Now,
so if your mother had kids previously and your father had kids previously, but you're the first of them together.
no. If, let's say she had kids previously, but then she marries your father.
Yeah.
Your father never had kids. Then you're a firstborn.
Gotcha.
Okay? So, are you a firstborn?
Nope.
Very good. I am. Anyway,
C-section removes the obligation, all right?
not for this. Not for the fast of the firstborn. Just like miscarriage doesn't remove the obligation for the. That's only for Pidyon Evangel. Which, by the way, okay, so we're going to do a siyum on Seder Moed of the Mishnah. Seder Moed is the order of the Mishnah that deals with holidays. And I chose to study that this year because I usually am studying about Gittin and stuff like that, which is, kind of like my area of expertise in Jewish law, so I want to keep myself fresh. But once in a while, I have to remember the laws of the holidays. And there's a couple of really interesting Mishnayot that came to life to me this time. Let's start with something from Mishnah Eruvin. And I have a really incredible, and I'll try to make this fast, but I have an incredible anecdote that goes with this Mishnah. Okay, so we don't measure except by using an expert, meaning a surveyor, if the tchum has been measured, farther in one place and closer in another. We follow the further measurement, meaning if you are measuring for an Eruv, and there's two different opinions of how far the Eruv reaches, you need to go with the opinion of the furthest reach of the Eruv. Meaning we're trying to make the Eruv reach the farthest, because we want to make sure that people are okay carrying on Shabbat, and they won't transgress. If one surveyor has measured the limit farther than another has measured it, closer, we follow the farther measurement. Even a slave or a maidservant is considered reliable if either say, until here is a tchum means territory, of Shabbat. For the rabbis did not say the laws of tchumim, to be strict, but rather to be lenient. This is remarkable, because when you look at the way, for example, certain segments of the Orthodox community behave with the Eruv, you would think it's the opposite. You would think they're trying to make it even more stringent, to make it even smaller, right? I mean, they're trying to make it bigger so that people can carry, but if there's a tiny break on the Eruv, they call an alarm and everything's off. And according to what we just read, the rabbis try to be extremely lenient on the laws of the Eruv, because they wanted to make sure that everybody was counted in the Eruv. Now, here's the anecdote. About 7 or 8 years ago, the Kollel started putting up an Eruv in our area, and then they moved on to Henderson. And, God bless the teenage rabbis of our community. I love them all really, and I mean this actually, some of them are really nice people. Most of them are actually very normal, law-abiding citizens. But they did something that was remarkable. The street where Rabbi Tektil from Midbar Kodesh lives has 4 families of the Kollel living in it. Same block. They stopped the Eruv like 3 feet before his house. Like everybody else was in the Eruv but Rabbi Tektil. So if you look at this Mishnah, I mean, come on, what is 3 feet? They could have gone another 10 feet, another 40 feet. It would have been nothing. And I don't think they did it on purpose. I don't think they knew he lived there, right? But it's very funny, but this is what the rabbis are saying. You're trying to take the furthest estimate so that the most amount of people can be counted in. Now, of course, in our eyes, of course, these guys, right? They want to make sure we transgress on Shabbat. No, that's not the case. They just made an honest mistake. But it was actually a very funny thing, in my mind. The next Mishnah, from Mishnah Shkalim. Shkalim is how we collect the Shkalim for the temple, right? This is how the Kohanim actually earn the living. And it's actually a remarkable process. In 3 baskets, each of the capacity of 3 seim, they make the appropriation of shekels from the chamber. And on them was written, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, really, 1, 2, 3, right? The three baskets. Rabban Ishmael says it was in Greek. It was written in Greek, Alpha, Beta, Gamla. The one who made the appropriation did not. Now, why would we have rabbis claiming it was in Greek and not in Hebrew?
It was monetary and might have a negative connotation.
That's one of the possibilities. What is the other possibility? There were what? I can't hear him.
Saying it
was it the Hellenistic time?
It could have been the Hellenistic time, right? What else? Not all Jews spoke Hebrew. Because it was the Hellenistic time, but also they wanted, because they wanted it to be so clear, Joe, like you said, that they wanted to make sure that every Jew knew how much was in each one of those baskets. It was very important. Okay? The one who made the appropriation did not enter the chamber wearing a bordered cloak, or shoes, or sandals, or tefillin, or an amulet, lest he became poor, and people say that he became poor because of sin committed in the chamber, or lest he became rich, and people say that he became rich for this appropriation in the chamber. What are they talking about? You basically enter the chamber where the shkalim were, not wearing, loose hanging clothing, or sandals, or amulets, or tefillin, anything that you could hide coins in. Okay, so they were being watched, and they also wanted to make sure there was no vision of impropriety. For one must be free of blame before others, as he must be free of blame before God, as it is said, and you shall be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel. And it says, and you will find favor and good understanding in the eyes of God and man. Now, when they walked in there, nobody could see it, right? So it was really in the eyes of God. And then why did he have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and also written in Greek? God clearly spoke Hebrew. So it's a very interesting thing. I don't want to. Mishnah Sukkah, another one of these ones. Rabbi Eliezer says, one is obligated to eat 14 meals in the Sukkah, one in the morning and one at night, on each of the 7 days of the festival. And the sages say the matter does not have a dictated amount, except on the first night of the festival, when there is an obligation to have a meal. And Rabbi Eliezer also said, one who did not eat a meal in the Sukkah on the first night of the festival can compensate for his obligation of having a meal on the last night of the festival. Now, where do they get that from, the compensation? One of the interesting things about Sukkot is that they had compensation for the sacrifices. If you didn't bring a sacrifice one day, you can bring to the next, etc., etc. And part of how we light the kindle, the lights on the Chanukiah, comes from the compensation of the sacrifices on Sukkot and how we actually added or subtracted. So it's a very interesting thing. But it doesn't apply, well, we'll see. And the sages say, in such a matter, there is no compensating. Regarding this, it was said, that which is defective cannot be amended, and the deficiency cannot be counted. Right, because the last day of Sukkot is really what? Shmini Atzelet. So you cannot do this. And they don't even have the other day of Sukkot, right? So, okay, Mishnah Rosh Hashanah 2:6. How were witnesses examined? This is, by the way, one of my favorite Mishnayot of the entire rabbinic literature. How were the witnesses examined? Meaning, how did we know it was going to be Rosh Chodesh before Rosh Hashanah? Now, this was very important, because the moment by the way, they had no calendars. Remember this. There were no calendars. So when they said, we saw the new moon, that meant it was Rosh Chodesh. Or when they said, we saw the pregnant moon, they counted days to Rosh Chodesh. So, how did they decree Rosh Chodesh? Wasn't it clear that when everybody saw the same moon, right? Wasn't it clear that everybody started counting the same day? Well, this is one of the first inklings that we have to tell us that the rabbis actually manipulated the calendar. And they manipulated the calendar for economical reasons. If you had a full marketplace filled with produce that was not sold before Rosh Hashanah, they manipulated the calendar. So let's see what they did. And Rabban Gamliel is like the most astute fox of all the foxes. This is unbelievable. How were the witnesses examined? The pair that came first were examined. First, the judges would bring in the eldest of them and say to him, say to us, how did you see the moon? Was it with the crescent turned towards the sun, or away from the sun, to the north or to the south of the sun? What was its elevation, and towards which side was it inclining? And how wide was it? If he said the crescent was turned towards the sun, he did not say anything of value and is dismissed. Afterwards, they would bring in the second witness and examine him. If their words were found to match, their testimony stood and was accepted. And then all the other pairs of witnesses would be asked questions in outline form. Not because the judges would need them, but only that they not live with bitter spirits, in order that they be accustomed to come and testify in the future. So they made it a fact that people had to come and testify, rather than everybody just say, oh look, there's a new moon, okay, it's going to be Rosh Chodesh. That's not the way it worked. The next Mishnah that I didn't include here says that Rabban Gamliel had actually posters of the images of the moon in his room. And he would bring the witnesses up and he would say, did you see this? Or did you see this? Or did you see perhaps this one? That in plain English is called witness tampering. Because are you sure you didn't see this one? Right? It's like the lineup on Law and Order. Are you sure it's not number 3? Hey, counselor, you cannot say it's number 3. And the whole trial now is dismissed. So that's exactly what Rabbi Gamliel used to do. And it's a very interesting thing. Having no calendars really has never been something that we think about. But imagine having no calendars. Imagine having to set the calendar every year and decreeing when the holidays fell. That's how we ended up with 2 days of Pesach at the beginning, 2 days of Pesach in the end, same for Sukkot, 2 days of Shavuot. That's exactly how it happened. So, nothing easy for the Jewish people. The next Mishnah, Megillah 4:9. A person who in his prayers to the Almighty says, the good Sholom bless thee, act in a heretical manner. If he says, even to birds, nest where thy mercies extended, or for thy goodness be thy name remembered, or one who says twice, Modim in the Amidah, he shall be silenced by authority. Also, whoever explains the text, Umizarcho lo titen le'avir lamolech, to mean, thou shalt not give thy seed to an Aramite woman. And those who explain figuratively the section in the law relating to the prohibition of carnal intercourse between relatives shall be silenced and publicly reprimanded. What on earth is this? How old is Mitch, by the way? I want to make sure he's over 21 right now. Okay, perfect. There we go, Mitch. There we go. Okay, so what is this? What is this Mishnah? Where does it come from? This is talking about a person who only sees the good in the world. Right? This is about a person who only sees the good in the world, who doesn't understand that there's evil in the world. So when you say to God, only the good should praise you, you are excluding, 50% of the population? And I'm being generous? Or when you try to silence somebody who's expounding laws of forbidden sexual intercourse, because you're assuming nobody does this? No, they need to be taught. Or when somebody repeats Modim twice, we thank you. Once enough. Right? You cannot outdo piety by thinking that everybody's pious. You need to live in a world centered in understanding that there's evil around you. And that evil people sometimes also believe in God. And you cannot ask for only the good ones to bless God, because that's not going to happen. I don't know if you know, there's another anecdote. In Mexico City, the Catholic Church, I believe, is almost pagan, right? Because they merged all of these traditions of the pagans, of the Indians, with Christianity. And one of the things that is remarkable is that they have all these saints that they pray to. And the thieves and the drug traffickers, they have their own saint. It's called Holy Death, right? So but when you, yeah, I know that you should go like that. But when you ask the priests, how come they can have this? The priests answer, the Catholic, well, what about, like, bad people are not supposed to pray? So this is kind of like our same answer. I mean, we don't have Holy Death as a saint, God forbid, but this is our answer. Even bad people need God. It's a very interesting appreciation of life. Okay? Mishnah Chagiga 1:8. Dissolving vows flies in the air. Oh, this is Heter nedarim porchim ve'avir. This is incredible, right? Dissolving vows flies in the air. There is no basis for it. Ein lahem alma sheismechu. Right? You know what atarat nedarim is? I'll tell you a story quickly. About 15 years ago, I had 10 Israelis show up here to my door the day before Yom Kippur and said, can we do atarat nedarim? I said, what are you talking about? Well, we do atarat nedarim. Right before Yom Kippur, we go to the rabbi who actually absolves us from all our sins. We read a thing from the Torah and we would absolve from all our sins. I said, well, Chabad's a couple of miles down the road. I think that's where you want to go. When I was taught at the seminar, we were taught this Mishnah early on, right? Trying to annul vows that people made, you trying to annul their vows for them, is crazy. It's crazy. And coming back to the Catholic Church, they sell absolution. They still do, right? So this is one of the things we really try to not do often. According to rabbinic law, husbands and Torah law, husbands have the ability to annul the vows of their wives. This is one of the most misogynistic, sexist things ever in the Torah, if you ask my daughter Daniela, for example. Honestly, it's there because of the context of the time. But no human being should be able to annul the vows of another human being. It makes no sense, right? Laws concerning Shabbat and festival offering and stealing from holy designated things. These are like mountains hung from a hair. They have few verses and many laws. Judgment and service and purity and impurity and improper sexual relations, they have plenty to be based on. They themselves are the body of Torah. Meaning, there are certain things that we spend our life trying to get people out of, right? Like, pay close attention to this, right? If I steal from the temple in Jerusalem, there's plenty of ways to absolve you, right? We're going to find a way. We're going to create the legal fiction. And all of those things are like mountains hanging from the air. We made all of these legal fictions up. But things that actually legislate, things that we do all the time, we don't really worry about, right? Things that are done all the time that people don't want to talk about. Things that you do behind a closed door, nobody saw you and nobody caught you. There's plenty of law to legislate it. We don't need to hang a mountain from the air or to hang them from a hair, because they're there. People just don't want to listen. Right? You don't need to make mental gymnastics to understand that what you have done is wrong, and we don't try to get you off because we understand it's wrong. So this is the rabbi's plea in saying, look, when somebody steals something, don't absolve them. Don't create this structure where they can be, redeemed. When somebody keeps chametz on Pesach, don't make it easy. Nobody should have chametz. Let's not make all of these legal fictions. When you want to charge interest to another Jew, let's do away with the proselyte. We shouldn't be able to charge interest to another Jew. This is what the rabbis are trying to say. Sometimes, in trying to make our life easy as Jews, we really do crazy things. I mean, we've all seen them, right? Look, how is the mikvah? How is the mikvah made kosher? The majority of the water in the mikvah is not mayim chaim. The majority of the water in the mikvah is hosed in. There's no pipes. There's no drain in the mikvah, so we have to, hose it in. But it's by connecting to a well that has a certain amount of mayim chaim, of water that has melted from ice, that when it touches the other water, it all becomes kosher. Come on, really? So yeah, we have all these things because we need to make our life functional. And that's why we came up with these things. But really, these are the rabbis saying, let's not stretch it that much because we run the risk of one day not recognizing the laws that are really important, that we can actually legislate without stretching, that we violate all the time. And now we're going to end with one from Shabbat, which is absolutely incredible. Let me just give you the context for this. One of the first times that I became aware that you could not carry things on Shabbat, I was walking back from shul with the guy who used to be the moil for the Mexican Jewish community. And I was in a different neighborhood than mine, and I was staying with a friend. That's where we ended up walking with this guy who was a wonderful man. He's a wonderful man. Herschel Filler. He did my bris, He did a lot of other, he did my son's bris. He did Abraham's bris. Wonderful guy. And we were walking together, and I saw that his tie pin, he had a tie pin, which was a key, right? And I said, Herschel, why do you have a key on your tie? He said, oh, I cannot carry my key, so this is how I wear my key. I wear my key, so when I get to my house, I can open my door. I said, okay, well, that's very, very creative. And of course, then you have this Mishnah. Let's see. Just as it is prohibited for a woman to carry out certain items unique to a woman into the public domain, of course during Shabbat, the sages said that a man may neither go out on Shabbat with a sword, not with a bow, nor with a shield, nor with an ala, nor with a spear. And if he unwittingly went out with one of these weapons to the public domain, he is liable to bring a sin offering. Rabbi Eliezer says these weapons are ornaments for him. Just as a man is permitted to go out in the public domain with other ornaments, aka the key in the tie, right? He's permitted to go out with weapons. And the rabbis say they are nothing other than reprehensible. And in the future they will be eliminated, as it is written, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not raise sword against nation, neither will they learn war anymore. With regard to women's ornaments, they added that a garter placed on her leg to hold up her stockings is pure, and cannot become ritually impure as a utensil, and she may even go out with it on Shabbat. However, ankle chains, which were also women's ornaments, can become ritually impure, and she may not go out with them on Shabbat. So, forget about the whole thing about women, that we can have another whole discussion for another day. The thing about weapons, that's really unbelievable, because our weapons ornaments. Our weapons ornaments. You know, and not that I want to talk about the royals a lot, because I really don't like the royals, as many of you know, but when you see the royals in their weddings, the weapons become ornaments. I mean, they're not gonna, look, when a military officer gets married in uniform, like he wears his weapons, right? I mean, they work like a sword. So are they ornaments? What the rabbis are saying is the only way you wear a weapon on Shabbat is if we're going to use it, right? For pikuach nefesh. For Jews, weapons cannot be ornaments. It's very interesting. The rabbis had a complete apprehensible, well, no, they think that weapons are reprehensible. They actually believe that weapons are not for Jews. And hence, you only use them when you have no choice, and one day they will be eliminated, and they cannot be ever part of your attire, certainly not on Shabbat. You know, we can talk about it all day and all night, but it's a very interesting understanding of Jewish identity. Goyim carry weapons as ornaments. We don't. And with that, by the way, you know why we don't write a Torah scroll with a marker or a pen or anything else? Because we're not supposed to use barzel, iron, because weapons are made of iron. So we use a quill. That's why we use that. That's why we never changed it, right? We don't want the Torah to be touched by the same material that weapons are made with when we write the Torah. So it's a very, very interesting understanding of the world, which is a beautiful understanding of the world, very naive too, but yeah, our understanding. So let us please rise. We've reached the end of my siyum. And yeah, all of us who are firstborns will be able to eat to our heart's content after I finish this. Hadran likes Masechet Moed. Be'adrach alan. Da'atan alach Masechet Moed. Da'atan alan. Lo nenasei menech seder Moed. Ve'lo titnasei manan. Lo be'alma yadin. Ve'lo be'alma de'ati. התגדל והתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דהוא עתיד להתחדתה ולחיה מאתיה, ולעסקה יתרון לחיי עלמא, ולמבנה קרתא דירושלם, ולשכללה איכללה בגבה, ולקעקר פלטנה נוקרנה מן ערה, ולעטבה פלחנה די שמיה לאתריה, וימליך קדושה בריחו, במלכותה ויקרא, ויצמח פורקנה ויקריב משיחה, בחייכון וביומכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה על שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה ואמירם בעולמה ואמרו אמן. על ישראל ועל רבנן ועל תלמידיהון ועל כל תלמידי תלמידיהון ועל מאן דעסקים באורייתא דבאתרא הדין ודי בכל אתר ואתר. ילאונו לכון שלמה רבה הינה וחיזה ורחמין וחאין אריכין ומזוני רביחי ופורקנה מן קדם אבוהון דבשמיא והרב ואמרו אמן. יהי שלם הרב אמין שמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו וברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. Good morning everybody, have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow and then the day after. This never ends. Now we're in the stretch that never ends. Maybe we should have thrown in a Hallel feature just for practice to get us,
just to get
us
us
in the mood.
Oh my gosh.
After the CM, I used to show as a little boy, I used to call it the Papa.
Yeah. Because it's not here. You know, we usually do
Congratulations on your new addition. I couldn't figure out what brand it was. Amazon.
Yeah, it's not here for some reason. There's a whole blessing about the Papa, right? Yeah, for some reason this